Showboat Bowling Center in Las Vegas to test their talents, and as you see the top 5 here this evening, that is certainly no exception to the rule. We're live at the Showboat Bowling Center in Las Vegas, where the top 5 will bowl the $100,000 Showboat PBA Seniors Invitational Finals. Good evening, everybody. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to Las Vegas. Working with me once again this summer is 3-time Firestone Tournament of Champions champ and Hall of Famer Mike Durbin. And Mike, it is becoming increasingly more difficult to win on the Seniors Tour.
Well, the reason it's becoming more difficult is we've had so many of the former star players that are now becoming 50 and are eligible to bowl in our seniors tournament. Examples of that are Ski Feremski, who bowled in this year's event, former bowler of the year Don McCune, and Glenn Carlson, who's on tonight's telecast, just turned 50 and did very well as he qualified second.
And, of course, Earl Anthony next year will turn 50. He'll be on the Seniors Tour. But more specifically, let's start with the player in the number 5 spot, John Pacific.
He's from St. Louis, Missouri. John is a 5-step player, throws the ball relatively straight, sometimes gets a little excited, but he knows how to throw some strikes when he gets it going. He once shot an 868 series with 2 300 games, so if he gets hot tonight, look out.
He will have his hands full, though, because the spook, Carmen Salvino, will bowl out of the number 4 position.
He's got the experience going for him. Carmen was the qualifying leader in this tournament. He's the one that originated that unique style of holding the ball down. Bowled very well in the qualifying. Looked as good as I've ever seen him until the match play came along when he struggled a little bit. And the reason he struggled is because the lanes changed a little bit and he really didn't make the adjustment. He says he's found it tonight. He's made another hand release change and he's found the answer for tonight's show.
And for the first time since 1976, a player that throws a full roller has made the national telecast, that being J.B. Blaylock.
J.B. was our 1971 El Paso winner. A full roller is where the ball rolls between the thumb and the fingers. People who throw that full roller are very accurate, as J.B. is. He'll be playing that extreme outside line. Sometimes you might hear the ball rumble a little bit as it nicks that thumb hole, but he's thrown a lot of strikes, and he could be tough tonight.
Speaking of a player who has thrown lots of strikes in the classic style, it's Glenn Carlson of Fresno, California.
You know, you've been teaching me a little bit about golf this week, and Glenn has that rhythm that you've been teaching me about, that tempo. Watch him at the top of the swing. It kind of pauses right there, and then he pulls the trigger and just makes a flawless slide and follow through. And as we watched him last night as he threw shot after shot, we couldn't tell, if we didn't watch the pins, whether he threw the ball well or whether he threw it poorly. That's how well he repeats. Let's see if he can do that under the pressure of tonight's telecast.
Last year, Dick Weber led this event by 506 pins going into the television finals. He, of course, won the championship. This year, he didn't lead by as many.
No, he struggled a little bit in the qualifying, but once match play came around, he figured it out. Moved to the extreme outside angle, used that golden arm swing and that ability that he has to win. You know, Dick used to beat all these players when he was in his prime, and now it's 20 years later, and he still seems to wind up beating them all. He's won 2 seniors titles. He's the defending champion here. He's the man to beat tonight.
It should be a very interesting show, so stay tuned. The opening match is coming up next, featuring John Pacific and the great Carmen Salvino. Tonight's telecast is being brought to
Boston Hastings
Hotel and Bowling Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. There you see the 2 participants in match number 1, John Pacific qualifying number 5, and Carmen Salvino, who has made 4 consecutive TV final rounds in the seniors, Mike Durbin. He's been a hot player.
Well, he's proved that he's very competitive against all kinds of competition, but especially in the seniors division. Our first look at John Pacific on lane 59. Loses the ball a little bit, and it slides by the head pin for the 1-2-8.
56-year-old John Pacific, hometown Florissant, Missouri. Another great bowler. I should say now 2 great bowlers listed out of that particular city.
Well, Dick Weber Lanes used to be in Florissant, and where we went many years to bowl in the winter tour. John Pacific, looking at that target, needs to get the ball over the foul line to be effective. Both shots he lost and set them down early. They didn't finish because he had no lift with his fingers.
In all fairness, first ever appearance on national television for John Pacific. He has to be a touch nervous.
I would think so, especially going against an ABC and PBA Hall of Famer, Carmen Salvino, who's bowled very well under all kinds of conditions for over 30 years. starts out with the dinner bucket, the 2-4-5-8.
Saw a number of those this week at the Showboat Bowling Center. Mike, why?
Well, with the condition the way it was, sometimes they had a little buildup of oil around the 6th or 7th board, around the 8th board, and if you got it into that, it would slide sometimes and just not finish.
There you see Carmen Salvino, 29 years, a PBA member. First shot at the bucket, gets a little break, hitches the pants, and Carmi has a spare in the opening frame.
The old hitch of the pants move by Carmen Salvino. He's been doing that for 30 years, too. You know, I can remember watching Carmen Salvino bowl on championship bowling when I was 15 years old, years and years ago.
Well, as we mentioned, 29 years a member, 18 career PBA titles. There you take a look at what transpired this week. 213.05 average, not bad.
Not bad, but he bowled better in qualifying than he did in the match.
Looking for his opening strike. Ooh, boy, solid 10, wiggles a little bit, and there were a number of solid corner pins left by the right-handers and left-handers all week long.
Held the scores down somewhat with the corner pins, the 10s and 4s that are always part of the sport of bowling, but they just seemed a little bit more prevalent this week here at the Showboat Lanes. I know that when I bowled here in the past, I always had trouble with the corner pins, and the people that score here and do well are the ones that can get those corners out.
And, of course, Carmen made the finals in the Showboat Seniors Invitational last year.
Cross lane at the 10-pin, no problem.
He's cool, isn't he? Been around a long time.
He's a little uptight right now, just reading his body English. He's not quite as relaxed as he can get. When he gets real loose and relaxed, he's running out strikes and kind of joking with the crowd and having a real good time. See if Pacific can get the ball over the foul line, start being a little bit more effective. You know, when he got about 6 inches over the line, and it's just a little bit more. He has a tendency to come up at the line. When he gets that left leg real straight, he loses the ball, and it's not very effective.
Mike, in looking at John's spot that time, it looks like he spots it at the dots or almost at the foul line, rather than maybe a little further out.
Wayne Webb does that. So we see the score there. Carmen Salvino up 10 pins. Pacific can even the match with a double here. And light again, it just didn't finish. The 2-4-5.
Throughout the week, John Pacific posting an 11-7 match play record, average 209.2. Had to make a rush earlier today to get to the top 5.
Had a little bit of trouble and then pulled it out by shooting 249 and 216, winning both of those matches, and then still needed a double in the 10th frame to get himself in. For the spare, has it.
We might mention the fact, too, that there were 18 qualifying games, 3 rounds, also 3 rounds of match play, 6 games each, a little bit different than the normal touring pros who bowl 8-game match play rounds.
Right, 36 games in all as opposed to 42 that the touring players bowl. Still a lot of bowling for guys sometimes over 60 years of age. On the Brooklyn, and carries it. Goes through his little act.
Now, that's the Egyptian move, Mike. Salvino's Egyptian move there. And oh, my goodness.
That's back when he had hair.
Back when he captured the Showboat Invitational here. And that was 1975. And, yeah, I think he's thinned out just a touch since then. Still throwing lots of strikes, though.
Something distracting him off to the right. Resets himself. Still up 10 pins. Can increase it to 20 if he can get a double here on lane 59. Looks good. Leaves the 4-pin. Both players struggling to find the 1-3 pocket on a comfortable basis right now. Appears that the left lane wants to break a little bit earlier than the right. The right lane appears to hang just a little bit.
Carmen Salvino, thus far in seniors competition, has bankrolled $38,725, so he has fared very well in the seniors events. And oh my, just as I say that, he whiffs the 4-pin to the left, and that's a mistake that he can ill afford to make here.
And that puts John Pacific in the lead, sitting on the bench. As we watch Carmen just nonchalant this 4-pin, just takes it for granted, plays it right down the middle of the lane, in fact, left of the 4th arrow, and watch the ball grab right here, and misses the 4-pin down.
Well, Pacific will try and capitalize on the air.
And another dinner bucket. Pacific at the 2-4-5-8. Put Salvino back in the lead by leaving the spare. Tough spare now. And makes it.
Not the easiest shot in the world to make, especially on national television.
Right. Not easy anytime.
And we'll now move from college baseball to professional bowling. There you see John Pacific, and we are just midway here in the opening match of the $100,000 Showboat Seniors Championship. And Pacific out of St. Louis, Missouri with a big strike, and he still trails Carmen Salvino by 2 pins. There you see Carmi stepping up on the approach. Denny Schreiner along with Mike Durbin here in Las Vegas. And big victory for the Texas Longhorns in extra innings, 6-4 over FSU as ESPN continues their live coverage of the College Baseball World Series. Carmen Salvino, lane 60, and he gets him to dance a little bit, Michael.
Right, and hook and horns. I'm glad they bailed it out there and got us on the air. Both players have been struggling a little bit here. Carmen just got his second strike of the match on lane 60 and shows his animation. Little hitch of the pants that he's been doing for.
Well, there's been an argument. Now, did Arnold Palmer start to hitch his pants before Carmen Salvino, or was it Salvino?
Well, I really don't know. And there's our first double.
And Carmen Salvino is lined up now in the championship pair. He leads by 12 midway through the opening match here, live from the Showboat Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. And while we were away, John Pacific struck in the 6th, the stubborn 7th, and in the 7th, and he spared. But Carmen Salvino now has a turkey working Mike Durbin through lane, or I should say through frames 5, 6, and 7.
Carmen seems to have gotten his act together and gotten his composure together and made 3 excellent shots, the last shots. What he's trying to do, Dan, is he's trying to spin the ball a little bit to get it to break later down the lane. The lane's been hooking too soon for Carmen, so he's trying to do what he calls his top shot. And too much that time. The ball didn't finish it back. It wasn't clean release that time. The thumb didn't come out of the ball cleanly, and the fingers impart the lift.
It's amazing that you mention that, because your tip, the very first tip on the summer tour on ESPN this evening, will deal with hand releases and what you can do with your wrist action.
Well, Mail deals a lot with how to get that thumb out of the ball. At the 2-pin, makes it this time. Missed the 4-pin earlier.
Salvino leads by 12. Yep, he missed the 4-pin, whiffed it to the left in the 4th frame, and you don't see a player of his stature miss a 1-pin spare very often.
Pacific in the 8th frame, trailing by 12 pins. Still very much alive in this match. Again, needs to get the ball over the line. Nice shot.
Well, after all, Michael, he was the 1952 Atlantic Navy champion, and he's en route right now with a strike in the 8th. We'll be back with more right after this. And we're back. We'll take a look at the second shot here in just a moment of Carmen Salvino, a little spare action.
Left the 2-8. As he left that 2-8, he evened up the match as we missed Pacific getting a double in the 8th and 9th frame. So as we head for the 10th frame, we're all even to the spin. Salvino trying for that first strike. He's going high, leaves the 3-pin, holds up his hands and saying safe, as he knew he made an errant shot. But right now, John Pacific is in the driver's seat. Salvino, if he picks this 3-pin up, which he probably will, and strikes, will finish with 193. Pacific would need the first strike in the 10th frame in order to win. And no problem. We have a lot of possibilities here, Dan.
Carmen Salvino's TV career record, match play-wise, 28 wins, 25 losses. So he has struggled from time to time in match play on television.
Just a little bit better than 500 right there. This count ball is very important. If he strikes here, he makes Pacific strike. Good speed. Still snapped at the end. Left the 6-10. Pacific now can win without a strike.
Carmen knows that he might have let one get away. Salvino finishes with a 191.
John Pacific needs to fill 18 pins in the 10th frame in order to win this match. If he gets 9 on the first ball spare, he would need 9 to win. A strike automatically does it.
We've got a little problem here. Salvino, I think, shoots 201. And that's correct. So that changes the complexion of things.
Is he going to fall?
Well, now Pacific shooting in a 203 pace should he spare and strike. So obviously he needs the mark and then count to beat Salvino. Been an interesting evening already at this point. College World Series. We're joining a little bit late. It's been an exciting first match to kick off ESPN's coverage of the PBA Summer Tour. Don't worry, Mike. We'll get this thing straightened around.
As he converts to 7-pin. 9 pins, and he's going to finish at 202. Strike is 203, 8, and we would have a tie and a 2-frame roll-up.
That'd be a nice way to start the Summer Tour. The reason why we bowled through a couple of commercials as well, because the seniors tournament here this evening is a 90-minute telecast rather than normal 2 hours, which is what we'll have the rest of the PBA Summer Tour, with the exception of the Hammer Open in Edmond.
For the win. And it's just enough. By 1 pin, he defeats the Hall of Famer.
Well, that's an exciting opening as Pacific ran it out, left a solid 5, but 9 was enough. John Pacific, I think, relaxing a little bit. Doesn't get much closer than that, Mike Durbin. All you have to do is go back, though, to look to that miss of the 4-pin in the 4th frame, and it cost Salvino dearly. And coming up next in match number 2, it'll be John Pacific against the full roller, J.B. Blaylock out of La Luz, New Mexico. Match number 2, John Pacific, who knocked off Carmen Salvino, will take on J.B. Blaylock.
And as I commented to you earlier, I didn't think Pacific had a chance in the world of beating Salvino, so I'm off to my usual prophetic start.
It never fails.
As he trips out the 4-9, how many times did you see that done this week? Never.
Well, I remember one player used to trip the 4 pretty well. That was another full roller ace, Billy Hardwick, who is on hand this week in Las Vegas because of the PBA Executive Board meetings. First shot now for J.B. Blaylock, 51 years of age.
And he almost got a domino with that 4-pin coming back, hitting the 2 and then the 1.
There we go. 26 years, a member of the PBA. What a nice guy. And everyone in La Luz, New Mexico, which is about 120 miles north of El Paso, Texas, watching this one.
At the 1-2-4, has it, no problem. J.B. Blaylock, who has won the National Resident Championship and has also won 1 PBA title in 1971. He won the El Paso Open.
Excellent match play record there. You saw 13-4-1, and match play really is the key to making the finals, isn't it, Mike?
Well, that's because you get the bonus pins when you win the matches. You get 30 bonus pins for every match you win. From the extreme outside and the full roller. And it trips the 4, just like Billy Hardwick used to do.
You know, Pete Thomas used to trip that 4 once in a while as well. The general manager of Golden Pin Lanes down in Tucson. We'll be visiting him a little later on this year. He used to trip that 4 constantly and drive his opponents crazy.
He was noted for it.
Sure. That big smile when he'd come back.
But not as often as Hardwick.
I knew you'd get that in. John Pacific's a red-hot player right now. Flush in the pocket. And he, I think, has lanes 59 and 60 pretty well figured out, Mike Durbin.
It's just a matter of whether he can repeat the shots right now. As he gets that ball over the line, he kind of tops it. And he watches his hand release. He goes around almost over the top of the ball, and then it just sets up solid that 1-3 pocket.
John finished in the top 16 in the 1985 PBA Seniors Championship. So he has had some success on the senior circuit.
Right there again. He's got his act together right now.
Probably most of the people throughout the country, other than those in the Midwest, have no idea who John Pacific really is.
That's probably very true. He wasn't a star player in his prime time. He mainly a family man, devoted his time to his wife and children, just bowled in spot tournaments every now and then.
As a matter of fact, his career earnings, $6,120.
For the double. Oh, and a solid 8 right out of the gate. Well, you can't afford those in a one-game match on television, especially when your opponent's opened up with 3 in a row.
J.B. Blaylock shows very little emotion. Very accurate player.
At the 8 pin, as he almost missed it. As we see it, watch the solid 8. You watch the ball will actually chop the 5 pin right off the 8. Right here, as it goes right in here, goes right in through here. And it'll take that 5 right back off the 8 and leave that solid 8 pin there. Straight back. It always amazes me when I see that.
Frustrating for the players, but JB comes right back with just a touch of a wall shot. So he strikes in the 4th frame, but still trails by 20 here in Las Vegas, and John Pacific is red hot at this point. And the applause you hear is for J.B. Blaylock, who just picked up the baby split on lane 60. He trails by 17 pins at this stage. And he'll shoot now in the 6th frame. And Mike, J.B. not exactly lined up at this point on the championship pair.
Well, he's lined up on the left lane, but he's having a little bit of trouble on the right lane. Missed the head pin, left the solid 8, and then through the nose. No trouble there.
You hear the rumble of that thumb hole. And while we were away, John Pacific left a washout and picked it up, Mike Durbin.
And the way he did it is he went left to the head pin. He went left to the head pin and sent the head pin over here as the pin came off the sideboard and got the 10. Watch it. Just like that. And we see that J.B. Blaylock converted the baby split. We don't see it right now.
Just the way you drew it up, Mike.
Yep, just the way.
And the 10-pin conversion for John Pacific, who I think, Mike, is beginning to enjoy himself a little bit out there. He's loose.
He sure is.
Leads by 17 at this point. He defeated Carmen Salvino in the opening match, 202 to 201. He needed 9 pins to shut Salvino out. Threw a bit of a wall shot and left a solid 5, but 9 was more than enough.
Is he going to fall?
When things are going good, they all seem like they're going to fall, and JB is nodding his head. Oh, give me a break here, will you?
As the ball goes right through the heart of the pins. Again, his problems are when he doesn't get the ball over the line. You see it straight left leg, the ball dumped down right through the heart of the pins, leaves the 3-6. The pin hits the 3 pin and almost knocks it over. And we don't see it, but he just converted the spare.
So he leads by 15 pins, but don't count J.B. Blaylock out because he's thrown a lot of big strikes in his career. Let's see if he can turn it around and come back. Bowling center, and to your left there on the screen, the general manager, Jack Cook. And to your right is Masaki Ishikawa, the first foreign player ever to make the finals in a seniors event, a professional bowler from Japan, and he finished 9th this week, averaged 204.75, and he was very, very exciting, and I think the fans really enjoyed his play this week, Mike.
Came all the way from Tokyo, shot 235 his last game to make it into match play, and he looked like he was almost on the verge of tears. He definitely was not the inscrutable Oriental, but he was a treat here for all the spectators to watch. He bowled very well, had a nice solid game, and for a while had a chance at the championship round.
And he was 4th at one stage earlier today, and Jack Cook has told me that he'll be back to play next year. And let's get back to championship action. Oh my, ringing 10 for J.B. Blaylock. Nice shot that time on lane 60.
And he cannot get a break on lane 60. Solid 8, a solid 10. Nothing going J.B. Blaylock's way, everything going John Pacific's way right now.
Still in the match, though, Mike, only by 15.
15 pins. One mistake by Pacific can put J.B. right back into it. cross lane at the 10 pin. No trouble.
And, of course, the Touring Pros will be here next week, the $140,000 Showboat Doubles Classic. And there you take a look at the ESPN scoreboard, down by 15. Some of the Touring Pros arriving in town already, a number of them. The defending champs, Mike Albee and Steve Cook, stopped by to say hello. They've got to be a solid bet again this year.
They're two excellent players.
And, of course, all that will be seen live at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on ESPN next Wednesday night.
Ball hitting the thumb hole, just nicking it a little bit.
And there is the wife and daughter of J.B. Blaylock, and they are really sweating this one out.
His wife crossed there.
That's right. His wife, Butch, to the right. That's right, I said Butch. And she told me earlier today my daddy wanted a boy, and he didn't get one, but he still named me Butch.
Hurry up. All right.
It's kind of confusing. You know, Johnny Cash, they called him Sue, and they're calling her Butch. Don't ask me why. Lovely lady, though. She said, we're just tickled to death that J.B. made the telecast.
Well, they're not so tickled right now. They want him to win right now. Once you get there, suddenly gratitude turns to another.
It's funny you mentioned that, because she said, Denny, the closer we get, the greedier we get. We want to win this thing. Meanwhile, on lane 60, it's John Pacific, 56 years of age. Been a solid pro here this evening. Uh-oh. Picked up the washout a little bit earlier in this match, as a matter of fact.
1-2-10. Again, he's got to cross over to the left side of that head pin and send it over into the 10 pin. He did it once. Right now, what we want him to do is right here, hit on the left side of this head pin, send it over into the 10 or off the board, back and get the 10.
Well, you have excellent penmanship, you know that?
Oh, yeah, just like John Madden here.
You can see the tension on Pacific's face.
Not enough. Not enough. And he opens and puts Blaylock right back in the match. And John Pacific just seems to like these tight matches. It's 2 pins with 2 frames to go.
Pacific leads by 2, and boy, we're at the foundation frame very quickly here.
And again, what he has to do, Dan, is get that ball over the foul line. He has all his troubles when he doesn't stay down at the line and when he doesn't get the ball over the foul line, as we see the scoreboard.
Set that one a little short, but he dropped it right in the pocket for a strike in the ninth.
The left lane seems to want to roll up a little bit more in the right lane. That same shot on the right lane wouldn't have made it.
Of course, the winner of this match will take on talented Glenn Carlson, and of course the top seed once again this year, the great one from St. Louis, Dick Weber.
Soft 10. Ball just nicking that thumb hole and taking a little bit of the roll off of it.
Appeared J.B. really extended through that shot. Mike made a nice shot there on the right hand.
Well, full rollers have a tendency to do that. When the pressure's on, a full roller, person who throws one, generally is going to hit that 1-3 pocket or 1-2 if they're left-handed. It's just a matter of whether they're going to carry. At the 10 pin. And got it.
Mike, how does the ball hit on a full roller when it's rolling over the thumb hole? Doesn't that take some of the power away from the shot?
Definitely, and that's what we've seen happen the last couple frames here. The way a full roller is thrown is that your thumb rotates clockwise from 10 on the clock up toward 12. It's almost like shooting marbles when you were a kid. And when you don't do it enough, you don't get that thumb up there toward 12 enough, the ball sometimes will clip that thumb hole.
And, of course, the full roller product of the old lacquer condition, basically, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
All right. Well, should he strike out, J.B. Blaylock would have a possible 208. And on the other side of the coin, if Pacific would go off the sheet, he could shoot 221.
Right now, though, J.B. is down by 3 pins, can take the lead with a double, and he better do that, because if he doesn't strike here, count is really not that important in that Pacific is on a strike. He would just need a spare and 8 to win. Has to hurry, and it does. Well, he kind of helped out along, but it didn't hit the thumb hole as much and rolled in there as his family applauds.
Terrific shot by the 1971 El Paso Open winner, and he picked up a check for $4,000 winning that tournament back in 71.
Well, he's going to make more than that today, even if he loses this match.
Told me he edged Mike McGrath, the great left-hander down there for that title.
Finishes out with 208. to take the lead by 7 pins. So the situation is that John Pacific is going to need the first strike in the 10th frame in order to have the victory.
Well, when you consider the solid 8 and the solid 10, maybe Blaylock bowled a pretty good game.
See what Pacific can do. He's had a little trouble on lane 60. Only 1 strike on it. And boy, sure could have struck, and it just didn't get the action off the board, and J.B. Blaylock advances on.
Yeah, really kind of a tough break for Pacific. Don't you think, Mike? He threw a pretty good wall shot there.
Looked pretty good. The ball just didn't get the action as we watch the head pin. Watch the head pin go to the sideboard. And the head pin bumps in against the 4. Nothing else happens, though, and he leaves the 5-7. Doesn't convert the spare, shoots 189, and J.B. Blaylock will face Glenn Carlson.
And for that 4th place finish, John Pacific will take home a check for $4,500, and Blaylock will advance now and take on Glenn Carlson, who really had a terrific tournament this week.
Bowled very, very well. You get a chance to see a real stylist when Glenn Carlson comes on.
And there you see the contestant. Hotel and Casino.
Carlson doing the intelligent thing, saw that Blaylock had trouble with lane 60, is going to make him finish on that lane.
It's amazing when you get loose, even with a full roller, what happens to those pins?
Well, don't knock that full roller. I threw one for 14 years. Bill Allen sitting over here as our scorekeeper still throws one, so.
Bill Allen, a PBA Hall of Famer, handling the statistical chores here. He bowled this week.
Got a check?
Yep. He always gets a check.
Carlson getting a bad break, just a little slow. He's been good with his speed all week long. And I'll give you a key to watch with Glenn as he shoots this spare. What he's been working on with his push away is to try and push the ball straight and to get the ball into the swing a little bit sooner. It makes it freer for him. If he pushes the ball up in the push away, he's late with his timing and slower with his speed.
Tries to pick up the 9-10 here in the first. Come back a little bit. Not quite. Almost danced that 10 pin out of the gutter, but an opening frame for Glenn Carlson, bowling in his first PBA Seniors Championship.
Right, and both pushaways went up just slightly. He didn't extend them out like he wants to.
Bowled brilliantly all week long, led the tournament for a while, averaged 218.4 through 36 games, and that's some outstanding bowling.
Trying to get loose and get his rhythm going. That's what he's been doing all week right there.
There's a look statistically at Glenn Carlson. 14-4. Boy, that's an outstanding match play record. J.B. Blaylock, who started with a strike in the first, will look to double things up, take advantage. Carlson's opened in the first.
And he's still trying for his first strike on lane 60. Doesn't have one yet. Still hasn't. Leaves the 2-4-5-8, the dinner bucket, and that lane just hangs slightly.
Interesting, Mike. Throughout the week, you and I really kept an eye on how the players bowled on the championship pair throughout the week, and lane 60 seemed to be the tighter of the two lanes throughout most of the week.
There was a hang spot in that lane. And what I mean by that is the ball doesn't quite drive to the pocket. Well, he makes it on the left. Not exactly the way you draw it up, but he made it anyway. Anyway, it's as we see that Blaylock's ahead by 11 pins. What's happening today seems to be consistent with what we saw all week long. This was not one of the real higher scoring pairs in the tournament. There were some other pairs that scored higher, and the right lane seemed to hang, and the left lane seemed to hook a little bit early. So that's exactly what we seem to have here. And that's exactly what happened. He went from the dinner bucket to the double pinochle.
Oh, boy.
4, 6, 7, 10.
Let me ask you about that, Mike. Do you make an adjustment in your game based on what you did on the other lane?
You shouldn't. I don't think he did here. I think he just made an errant shot as it went right through the heart of the pins and got the full penalty. He shoots at the 6-10. Puts Glenn Carlson into the lead, sitting on the bench.
Well, both players with an open early on in the semifinal match. What's that do for your confidence when your opponent makes a mistake like that and you're not doing anything but sitting there watching?
Well, these guys are professionals, and I'll tell you what, every time I did that, Denny, my opponent came back and just drilled me with a double. Watch his push away and see if he pushes it out or up. He didn't extend it real well. And that's exactly what happened. It slows his speed down just a little bit, and he gives it right back. So right now we've just got a match of here you take it, no, I don't want it.
It's a matter of survival at this point. The bowler's nemesis, the 4-6. You ever pick up the 4-6, Mike?
One time.
How'd you do that?
It bounced out. I just threw hard at one of them, and it bounced out.
Where was it? When did it happen? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember. It was in Kendall Lanes in Florida, and it was in match play against Jeff Mattingly, who recently died in an automobile accident up near Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, during the winter tour then, huh?
Yes,
you made it during the winter tour.
Carlson must keep that speed up to be effective. He gets soft, the ball hooks too soon or too quickly on the lane.
Glenn trying to get lined up on lane 59, throws an excellent shot, but as we have seen throughout the week here, leaves a corner pin, the 10 pin.
Still only 7 pins separating the two bowlers. If Glenn can get his nerves together, convert the 10 pin, sit down, we'll go to commercial and come back, and he's still in the match.
Well, the Showboat's been a good place for Glenn Carlson. Matter of fact, he got his first professional paycheck here back in 1964 when he made the cut and won $320. He's looking for much more than that here this evening. His first PBA championship, but he's got his work cut out because he's bowling tough. J.B. Blaylock.
How to write a small business success story. Listen to how AT...
He left back in the second frame. He probably moved the board to the right, and the ball hooked early. Right now, the players are getting what we call the overreaction. When they get the ball a little bit right, it hooks quickly. And when they get it a hair left, it hits oil and slides. At the 610. Almost missed it.
Kind of leaned on his toes a little bit there just to make sure he had the conversion. Why do bowlers use body English, Michael?
Well,
it doesn't do you any good, does it?
Do you use body English in golf?
Yeah, I put my clubs in the trunk and go home.
We see the scoreboard there. Blaylock 44 in the third with a spare working. Carlson 37. Both players on spares.
And, of course, the winner of this match will advance into the championship game. A couple of pins dance around the 5.
Marked increase in speed that time by Blaylock on the left lane as to compensate for the split he left there last time. Got the ball in the 1-3 pocket. Didn't get the action off the wall for a strike.
PBA Showboat Seniors Invitational, the first of 12 weeks of PBA bowling on ESPN this summer.
Now we'll see if he can make the adjustment on this right lane. Been through the nose twice. And this, he's got to make a move with his feet, and he's got to make sure he gets that push away straight out.
Glenn Carlson with over $85,000 in career earnings.
Better shot, left only the 4-pin. Carlson at the top of his backswing has almost a pause there, a hesitation. Exactly what you were telling me to do out at the driving range this week. And he has that perfect tempo when he's going good. Right now he's a little bit still uptight, a little bit nervous. When he gets it going, he's just a pretty bowler to watch.
Oh, and he bowled superbly all week long. And not Dick Weber just bowled unbelievably well. Carlson would have been the top-seeded player. Getting ready for this tournament to come here to Las Vegas, he worked extensively with Art Trask, who finished third in the Tournament of Champions earlier this year, Mike. And what did they work on specifically?
Well, just what I was talking about that push away, trying to get the ball into the swing slightly sooner to free up that swing and increase his speed.
Carlson trails by 7.
Couple tough breaks there. Solid 10, solid 4, solid 10.
Can't throw it too much better than that, can
He's making good shots right now. He's starting to get looser. That push away went straight out and right down. He got the ball into the swing the way he wants to. Still early in the match, though. Right now, he's hanging close, and neither player seems poised to run away with it right now.
And Carlson, 27 years a professional bowler. Cross alley shot at the 10-pin, nicks it with no problem whatsoever.
Back in 1974, when Jim Stefanich shot the then last 300 game before Pete McCarty did it this winter at Alameda, California. The opponent was Glenn Carlson, who that game bowled 243.
Boy, you just got to believe that life is heading in the wrong direction when you shoot 243 and a guy stands up and shoots 300 at you.
Well, that particular moment in time, anyway. Yeah. And he is really puzzled. He actually got that ball left of his target, did not have a good hand release, and the ball faded or backed up at the pins. Watch it. He's trying to get the ball right out here, and he got it left over here, and the ball just kind of fades back this way. Makes the 1-2-4-8. Brings the match closer, though, within 3 pins now. Both players shooting in the 170 bracket at this point in time.
JB opened up the tournament in 39th place after the opening round. Cut that in half, moved to 18th, then 9th, 6th, and was 3rd in the 5th and 6th rounds. So he's been moving steadily up the hill. Leads by 4, but boy, this one's too close to call at this stage.
Well, all the matches have been close. There hasn't been outstanding scores, but they've been close matches. High rumble over that thumb hole, and if he converts this, we're going to have an even match. Looks back at his wife, and he is totally lost right at this point.
What do you do when you're in that situation, Mike? When absolutely nothing is working, do you go back to fundamentals, back to what you do best, or what do you do besides run up the white flag?
What I would do in this point is increase the speed and try and throw what Dick Weber used to do, the frozen rope shot at the pocket. As he makes the spare, and we've got an even match. Well, now Blaylock's ahead by 1 pin.
It's very close indeed, and we'll head away. We'll be back with the conclusion of the semifinal match between Carlson and Blaylock right after this.
Good times never lasted long.
U.S. Open Golf on ESPN, live on Thursday, June 18th and Friday, June 19th. And the pros will be teeing it high and letting it fly in San Francisco at the famed Olympics Club. And, boy, what a great golf course that is. We've got a bird's eye view here this evening of the bowling on lanes 59 and 60. Mike, is it easier to watch the bowling from up here or back on the approach where you used to be?
Well, it's much easier to watch it here. Were you around when Jack Fleck beat Ben Hogan at Olympic back, when was it, 1954?
You know, my parents weren't even dating at that point, I don't think. But, yeah, great golf course. Great match here, semifinal match.
Carlson trying for his first strike on the right lane. High again, leaves the 3-pin. Glenn has just not made the adjustment on this right lane. Ball right around the first arrow. He's aiming right of that. Hooks way too soon here. Gets a good break, leaving only the 3-pin. Be interesting to see whether he would practice on the spare. He knows it's high. He's just yelling, break it up right now.
A little disgruntled.
That's what my wife used to call my Donald Duck look, which if I would look like that.
You used to look like that quite often, too, didn't you?
You know me all too well, don't you?
So does Debbie. Boy, this is as close as it gets right now. Carmen Salvino lost in the opening match to John Pacific, 202 to 201. Then J.B. Blaylock knocked off John Pacific, 208-189. We are in the semifinal match here at the Showboat Bowling Center in Las Vegas.
And we've had a total of 2 strikes in this match, 1 by each player. And now it's 3.
Right, and ye shall receive, Mike Durbin.
Right now, it's a matter of somebody can strike simply to save count.
Boy, the crowds have been excellent all week long. Beautiful facility. 106 lanes here, 70 in the general area, and then, of course, 36 more at the other end of the house. Huge bowling facility. If you're ever in Las Vegas, don't forget to stop by the Showboat Bowling Center.
Open 24 hours a day, as this whole town is. And a solid 7 by JB. He's had a solid 8, a solid 10, now a solid 7.
And it's tough. It's tough to smile in the face of adversity. JB turns around and smiles and says, holy cow, what do I have to do to get a strike on that right-hand lane?
And I can hear Billy Hardwick saying as he's watching this, that full roller never would carry, you know.
Yeah, right. Hardwick never won anything, right? He was devastating.
Uh-oh.
Hang on.
It did.
Well, a tough break indeed. Solid 7 for J.B. Blaylock. It's a one-pin lead at this stage for Blaylock.
And right
but
now,
Carlson's working on a strike.
Right now, JB is going at a 175 pace. Carlson at a 174. JB is potential 195 if he can strike here in the ninth and set himself up for the 10th. And there we see the score, 115 to 114. Carlson on the strike. High again. On the Brooklyn trips to 6.
Well, that's kind of a nifty adjustment, Mike. Why hit the right side of the pocket when you can go to the Brooklyn
Well,
side?
my dad used to tell me years ago, when in doubt, go Brooklyn.
No. And you used to use that advice quite often, didn't you?
Hey, anything to win.
Hey, it all looks the same on paper. Now, Carlson will step up in the ninth. If he throws a double here, the pressure is back on Blaylock.
And he's yet to strike on lane 60. See if he can get that push away right under the heat. Oh, of all things, 6, 7, 9, 10. This is a makeable split.
And there you see the general manager, Judy Moore. Obviously having a good time.
He can hit that 6-pin on the right. Get the action. He didn't do it. You got to hit that 6-pin on the right. Sometimes you get a reaction.
Sometimes it'll ricochet off the pin and head over towards the 7-pin.
Right. And he's more or less just handed this match to J.B. Blaylock.
Well, at this point in time now,
he's still potential 172 if he would strike all the way out in the 10th frame. There's the first one.
Better late than never.
Having no trouble on the left lane.
Possible 172 for Glenn Carlson if he would strike out.
Blaylock going at a 175 pace. He'd still make him mark in the 10th frame and get 8 if he can get one more here. He knows what to do on that lane. It's just lane 60 that buffaloed him all the way through.
It's amazing how that can happen. A professional bowl that well all week long, get to the television finals, and just get locked up and not be able to strike on one lane.
He's got 4 strikes in this match, all of them on this left lane. He needs one more to finish with 172 and force Blaylock to get that mark in the 10th. Perfect there.
Really amazing when you consider it, isn't it? Of course, that's like a golfer playing 16 holes at about 3 or 4 over par and then making birdie on the last 2 holes. It happens.
JB needs a spare and 8 pins to win this match. Strike automatically does it.
And to advance onto the championship and play Dick Weber.
Right through the nose, breaks up the split. Good break, left only the 610. 7-pin was up there for a fraction of a second.
Well, you have to say one thing. The matches have all been close, right down to the 10th frame.
He still needs to make this spare. Cross lane, wants to hit both pins with the ball. Does it perfectly. Now he needs to do that exact same thing. 8 pins, or better, he's a winner. 7, we'd have a tie and a 2-frame roll-off. 6 or less, and Carlson would win.
And believe me, getting 8 is not the easiest thing in the world to do, is it?
Right at this point, he's left the dinner bucket. He's gone through the nose. He doesn't know where to throw it.
Think
Get
he
it in the 1-3
move a little
pocket.
right and throw it hard at the pocket, or what?
Let's wait and see. Tie again. And he did the exact same thing and wins by a pin.
Well, sometimes you're just meant to win, as J.B. mops his brow, gets the congratulatory handshake and a smile from Glenn Carlson. And it was just survival of the fittest in the semifinal match, 173 to 172. Dick Weber, of course, the top seed up next. So stay tuned for the...
Down through the years, the big games, the special games, always seem to live on in your memory. The excitement of baseball. It doesn't end when the game...
the numbers, Mike Durbin, this week here at the Showboat Bowling Center.
Carlson Weber, 14-4. Glenn Carlson had 22 games over 200. Carmen Salvino had 11 200s in a row. Our lefties averaged 194. Righties a little bit less at 191. He needed a 195, almost 196 average to cash, and 200, almost 201 to make the finals. Scores moderately low. 13,000 for our winner tonight. Runner-up here is going to make 7. Glenn Carlson walked away with 5,000. John Pacific, 4,500. Carmen Salvino added $4,000 to his bank account.
And if you wonder why we're wearing short sleeves, it's only, what, about 105 degrees outside, Mike?
The guy at the pool told me it was 108. He told me to tell my wife that.
Only 108, huh? Wow. And there you see, smiling Dick Weber, the great one, Hall of Famer, PBA, ABC. 29 years a Pro Bowler, 28 professional titles, and many, Mike Durbin, think he may be the greatest bowler of all time. What about your thoughts there?
Well, he certainly has the credentials for that. He's been great in almost 5 decades, at least 4, and he just doesn't seem to lose his skills. I mean, he bowled so well this week, and last year here he bowled even better. And he's coming back this year. You know, he had a broken leg or ankle. I forget exactly what it was. Weber making JB finish on lane 60 where he hasn't got a clue. Or at least he hasn't had a clue.
But JB comes out and throws a little jab in the first and strikes, tripping the 4 on lane 59. Dick Weber averaging 221.6 throughout the event. His match play record this week, 14-4.
Yeah, Weber's strategy throughout the years has been to get out to an early lead. That's what he wants to do. And like all the other players on lane 60, they've struggled. John Pacific had as good a shot on lane 60, I think, as anybody. Players have either sailed by the headpin. We see the back of Juanita Weber right there on the right. At the 128. Wants to hit the headpin on the left. Does it perfectly.
Dick Weber has just been a dominating factor on the Seniors Tour, Mike. He has made the finals in 10 consecutive Seniors events. And there you see his lovely wife, Juanita, was out all week long. Dick said he's going to take off a little bit of time now, going to quit bowling a little bit. He and Juanita are just going to go play golf. He said she's learning how to play, and she'll probably end up beating me as well.
Weber on lane 59, which has been the easier of the 2 lanes for all the players. Knocks the 10-pin out of there.
You know, it's amazing, Mike, that Dick Weber is dominating the Seniors Tour, but when you look back at the old record, he won 10 of the first 23 PBA tournaments ever staged, and that's about as dominating as you can get.
It's hard to do better than that. Byron Nelson in golf, who won, what did he win, 11 in a row?
Yeah, 13 in 1 year. Now J.B. Blaylock steps up in the second on the right-hand lane, and as Mike has alluded, it has been a mystery for him. A little more speed this time, and still through the nose, and he's tried just about everything.
Well, he's got that 610 hit down pat. That's 3 in a row.
Let me ask you this, Mike. Now, the contemporary player, would he bowl 2 full games without changing equipment? Now, the older players, they stick with the same bowling balls. That's their philosophy. Might he not take another ball out right now and try it?
That's an excellent point, Danny. What a contemporary player might have done just that is he chops the 6 off the 10 and opens the door for Weber. He didn't do that in the 10th frame or he wouldn't be here. The old style approach to bowling would be to change your hand release to increase speed, maybe move up on the approach or back on the approach or change angles a little bit. The modern player does, as we see the scoreboard there, switch balls very rapidly, and that's probably what they would have done.
Let's get to another point then. Were the classic players of, say, the 60s, late 50s, 60s, better shot makers than the contemporary players?
In my opinion, I think they were, yes. As far as, it depends what you define as shot maker. The ability to hit 1 or 2 boards, I think the 50s and 60s players were able to hit that 1 and 2 boards. Today the game has changed, and you don't have to be as accurate. Today the game has gone toward power, as we see Blaylock make the 6-pin and trying to put as many revs and hook the ball as much as you can, and you don't need to be as accurate, but you get a lot more strikes. Weber's always had that killer instinct where he's been able to put his opponent away once he got an open. And Weber right now is up by 12, can increase it to 22 if he can double. And we see just the opposite thing happen. The first one sails by the head pin as he got it in. He got that one wide, and it hooked early. Watching. This one goes right at that first arrow. You see the far arrow to the right. Goes right at that first arrow, right here. And then hooks high and goes right through the heart of the pins here. At the 3, 6, 9, 10, misses it, and we've got an even match.
Well, both players have suffered through an open. Blaylock opened in the second, Weber now in the third, and we've got an even Steven match at this point through 3 frames.
And right now, as we see Weber slide by, shoots the spare from the left, which I personally think is a mistake, and doesn't even hit the 3-pin. Evens up the match. Right now, the battle is who can hit lane 60.
Weber struck on lane 59 his first attempt. Let's see if he can stay lined up. Stretches out. It's a pretty good shot. And oh my goodness, that's as tough a break as you'll find. The 4-9 stands there solid.
Well, we're going to have, it's going to be another, it could very well be another one of these matches of 170 to 170, someone winning this match. As the way it's going, it doesn't look like anybody's going to get hot and get 3 or 4 in a row. And we'll see. Happen to get a few breaks along the line. Weber, very good split maker over all the years. Give this a shot. Doesn't happen, though.
A little too full on the 4, so Weber struggles with a pair of opens in the third and the fourth. He trails by 11 at this point. He'll have to gear up and get ready for the conclusion of this championship match. Fourth, J.B. Blaylock now finds himself leading by 11 here in the championship match of the Showboat PBA Seniors Invitational. The winner of this match takes home 13,000 big ones. The loser banks 7,000.
Let's see what kind of adjustment he tries to make on lane 60 this time. He's moved his line inside the first arrow just a little bit around the 6th or 7th board and trying to go a little bit more direct. But that ball still crept high and left the 4-pin, very high 4-pin.
1-pin spare looks a lot better than some of the things they've been leaving thus far, though, right?
It sure does. Cross lane at the 4-pin. Dead solid.
Mike, I know that you're not competing anymore on a regular basis on the PBA Tour. I know you've just made a change job-wise. As you see the scoreboard, Blaylock leads by 10. Tell us what you're doing for the PBA.
Well, I've been hired by the PBA, something that I've always wanted to do. My official title is assistant to the commissioner, but it involves working with the senior tour, learning the jobs of both Harry Golden, the tournament director, and Harry Smith, the assistant tournament director out here on the national tour. And I'm very pleased to be associated with the Professional Bowlers Association.
Well, I don't think they could have made a better choice. And neither does J.B. Blaylock as he crosses over again. He's had more success on the Brooklyn than he has on the other side of the pocket.
Well, I'll tell you what, that old adage, when in doubt, go Brooklyn, right now is J.B. right now. I don't think he knows what to do to get it on the right side in the pocket.
Let's see if Weber can right himself. Here's a player who has won 2 championships on this championship pair. He's familiar with it. If anybody can make the adjustments, Weber runs it out, and boy, that's as good a shot as he's thrown all week.
Interesting. I don't know what kind of adjustment he made to get that ball solid in the pocket. He gave it a little room on that right lane and tried, I guess, more speed to get that ball down the lane. He's 10 pins behind. This is his favorite lane, 59. With a double, he can even the match.
And that, of course, is his career television record.
Here it comes. Pretty shot. He just gave it more room with good speed.
Juanita shakes her head a little bit, but obviously pleased with the double. You know, Dick won the 1963 Showboat Invitational, and he's won a couple of times in this particular bowling center, and that's got to give him some confidence.
I'm trying to think back if J.B. Blaylock has had a strike on lane 60 yet. I don't think he has.
Now would be the time to start.
And he tricks that 4-pin out of there.
And there's his lovely wife and daughter. And they are obviously excited. And both players now have a double. But Blaylock still leads by 10. He's gone Brooklyn a couple times on lane 59. Let's see what kind of an adjustment J.B. makes this time.
He's got to keep that speed up. The only chance he has. And he did. Well, suddenly, the old hand release artists are finding a way.
Now, these guys can still bowl. Don't kid yourself. You get locked up in a match against Weber or Salvino or one of those guys, and they'll take you right to the end of the sheet. Weber working on a double. Down 20. Cut the lead in half with a strike here on lane 60.
Weber trying to give it room on this lane. Here it comes. Oh, it leaves a solid 9. What a bad break. He was 20 down and needed that one desperately. Watch him. He's trying to get the ball right at the first arrow. Does it over about the third board. Comes in flush here in the 1-3 pocket and leaves that solid 9. What a time for that to happen. Cross lane at the 9-pin. Weber has it easily. It falls just a little bit further behind. 21 pins behind with 3 frames to go.
And you can see that little half smirk on his face.
Little
What goes through your
smile
mind
there.
when you throw a great shot like that, Mike, in a title match and you don't get a strike?
Well, sometimes you have a tendency to get a little pessimistic and say, well, that figures, you know, who didn't know that, something of that nature.
It's not my turn to win or whatever. But this guy has 28 titles to his credit. He won't give up until the final shot is thrown.
High, and trips the 4-pin out there. Not nearly as good a shot as the other one, but nevertheless, he's still in the match.
Well, if Weber would strike out in the 9th and 10th, he would shoot 216. But Blaylock now working on a turkey. He's working at a 247 clip.
Blaylock again, trying to figure out lane 60. Hard and straight. And it didn't finish. And oh, my, well, I'll tell you what. When you carry something like that, Weber's looking at it saying, it isn't my turn to win. Exactly.
Yeah, where was the whistle? That was a cave-in all the way. 3 pins were standing, and then they weren't, as Weber sort of shrugs his shoulders, and Blaylock leads by 31.
Interesting. Blaylock was getting no good breaks a couple matches ago against John Pacific. He kind of shakes his head himself, but now suddenly everything good has happened. Brooklyn's, trip 4s. Well, we spoke too soon. The old equalizer. The pins giveth and the pins taketh away sometimes. And Weber starting to add up the scores, what he's trying to do.
We better get the bifocals out, though. I don't know if he can see that far, can
I'll
he?
tell you what. If Blaylock misses this, which he can, Weber is in the position, if he strikes out, would lock up the match.
How quickly it turns. The ebb and flow of professional bowling.
Blaylock is up 17 pins, but he's going at a 203 pace, and the best he can get is 213. If Weber would strike here in the 9th and 2 in the 10th, or all 3 in the 10th, he'd get 216.
Now, Weber has to put the solid 9-pin out of his mind and make a key shot.
It's gone. As soon as he left that 7-10, as soon as Blaylock left that, all Weber's thinking about is striking right here. Here it comes. Oh, and he almost left the 8-pin.
And he looked back and then waved his left hand. And Juanita, tears are coming to her eyes at this point. I think if that 8-pin would have stood up that trip, she might have jumped out of her chair.
Weber down only 7 pins now. Can take the lead with this strike. He's always been great in this type of situation. The key for Weber is staying down at the foul line.
Player who has won PBA championships in 4 different decades.
For the lead. His patented hit did not strike. That's where he's thrown it time after time when he's needed light and getting that light mixer or the wall shot, and it didn't strike. Leaves the 7-pin. Must make this. Must make this. And does.
Well, Weber had a chance to shut Blaylock out if he'd have struck, but he didn't. So now the door swings wide open once again, as Weber's best with a strike would be 195.
Which would force Blaylock to mark in the 10th frame.
And he hasn't exactly experienced great futility on lane 60.
Must get at least 8 here to make him mark.
Swings it a little wide, flushes it, and he knew it all the way. So Weber, who leaves a stubborn 7 with a first shot in the 10th, will now have to sit down and say a prayer and hope that JB doesn't come up with a mark. On the other side of the coin, JB is thinking to himself, just let me hit the pocket and leave anything and all that I can pick up and get out of here alive.
He just wants to make one good shot here. When you need a mark, the best kind of mark is a strike. Looks good. And the solid 10. He could not have thrown it any better, but he knows that he can make this spare. He's getting his thoughts together now, looks up at the score. He knows what the situation is. He's made 1,000, more than 1,000 10 pins over this course of his career. It's just a matter of doing what he knows how to do.
Wife and daughter standing by. Boy, that's a tough situation.
And he missed it.
Oh, no.
Weber wins.
Oh, my goodness. J.B. Blaylock, his whole life has just passed in front of his eyes. Weber's sitting on the bench, and there you see the disconsolate look. And there is Butch, his wife, and his daughter. A round of applause for both of these players. And, boy, that is a heartbreak there. The final score, 195-192.
J.B. going cross lane, hits right at the 4th arrow. The ball just doesn't come back and falls into the channel about 2 feet short. It really wasn't close. And he knew it, and it just...
Well, I think every player has experienced that kind of disappointment, but not in a title match.
Cleaning is easy with help from True Value hardware stores. The Turbo Wash.
Dick Weber is all smiles. He got a big break in the 10th frame. He wins the Showboat Seniors Invitational, and he will receive a check for $13,000 from Judy Moore, the general manager of the Showboat Hotel, Casino, and Bowling Center, and a beautiful, beautiful trophy. And here's the reason why he ends up in the winner's circle.
J.B. Blaylock needing to convert the 10 pin to win his first seniors title, falls short for it by about 2 feet, and heartbreak.
Well, there you see. And we'll be watching bowling all summer long on ESPN. 11 more weeks of exciting action. Stay tuned next week from Las Vegas. Next week on ESPN, it's the $140,000 Showboat PBA Doubles Classic, live from the Showboat Bowling Center, beginning at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Tonight's $100,000 Showboat PBA Seniors Invitational has been brought to you by Budweiser Beechwood Age, for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. For all that you do, this Bud's for you.
Snyder swing.